lot of silver stackers like to mix up their collection with bars, rounds, and coins, while others stick strictly to government-backed bullion. Now, for those who like variety, which ones are the best to stack and why? Well, we're going to talk about that and a lot more, so make sure you stay tuned. Well, how you doing out there, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the Silver and Gold Stack Attack. The Precious Metals channel is just an extremely small part of the best damn community on YouTube. You guys are the best, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to be here. And if you enjoy stacking content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It really does help the channel grow, and we're marching closer to 4,000 subs, which is actually mind-boggling to me. I mean, I never thought I'd see 4 subs, never mind 4,000. So honestly, it's really a humbling experience, I can promise you. Anyway, today we're going to talk a little bit about silver bars, rounds, and coins, along with the advantages and disadvantages of each one. But enough of all that. Let's go ahead and roll this thing.
Well, we're waiting.
So, as the title of this video implies, we're going to compare 3 choices of silver bullion and go over the pros and cons of each one of them. Now, one thing I'll ask you to keep in mind is that I'm injecting my own opinions here. A lot of this information will probably apply to newer stackers, and seasoned stackers will know what I'm talking about. But you may see things completely differently, and that's okay. This video isn't telling anybody what to stack. It's just giving information so people can make their own determination on what to stack. Fair enough? All right, before we kick it off, let's go over some factors that you need to be aware of as you determine what's best for your stack. And they are, number 1, if you're stacking strictly for weight, you're looking for the lowest price over spot that you can get. Captain Obvious. Number 2, brand names do matter. They really do. Try to avoid mints that no one's ever heard of or are known for low quality if you can. Do your homework. And number 3, be aware of the counterfeited products out there. Make sure you educate yourself on how to ID them. All right, we'll start with the bars, and the basic definition of them is pretty simple. It's precious metal in a bar form, whether it's silver, gold, or anything else. Now, we can pretty much nail these down in 3 categories, and they are generic. You got like Germania, Asahi, Heraeus, all that stuff like that. Those are basically issued by private mints, and their value is predicated near or slightly above spot price. But that said, you also have generic bars that command a little bit more of a premium, like these Germania bars. People love them. People love them, and we're paying extra for them. Next up, we have government-issued bars. Britannia, RCM bar, all of those. Those are issued by Royal Mint, Royal Canadian Mint, Perth Mint, etc., etc., etc. Hey, U.S. Mint. Yoo-hoo. Why not get on board with the bars, man?
You're killing me, Smalls.
I think they'd be crazy popular sellers. Anyway, this group is definitely going to carry a higher premium than generics, and the issuing government backs the purity and the weight of the bars. And lastly, we have collectible bars like this Gerasoppa. They can be issued by private or government mints. For example, the Gerasoppa bar was minted by Sunshine Minting here in the U.S. after Britain sent some of the recovered silver from the Gerasoppa shipwreck. And you also have collectible government bars like this 3 Graces bar from the Royal Mint. Beautiful bar. And I had a really low mintage of only 6,100 worldwide. But we could technically throw in a 4th category in here, and that'd be the vintage bars, like this Engelhard. Okay, you got the Engelhard bar. But just to keep this video simple, I would categorize those within the, collectible category. All right. Now, silver bars run in all kinds of sizes, from the tiniest all the way up to 100 ounces. We can debate all day long on fractional silver. But the most popular sizes for bars are typically the 1 and 10 ounce varieties, with the kilo in a close third. 5s are honorable mention, but I don't think they fall before the first 3. Everyone's got their own preferences for sizes and what's best for them. And my personal limit for size is 10 ounces. I typically won't go above that weight for bars. Now, what are the advantages of silver bars? Well, number 1, they're an affordable way to add weight. As the size goes up, the premiums generally get more reasonable, unless it's a collectible or vintage bar. And number 2, they have a very high stackability factor. They're easily stored. But what are the disadvantages? Well, liquidity for one. A lot of dealers would prefer not to deal with a bunch of 1 ounce generic bars. and will probably give you right at spot or barely above. And if you try too soon to sell after buying bars, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to lose your money on the sale compared to what you bought them for anyway. Now, the 10-ounce bars seem to enjoy a little bit more liquidity and value, and at least with my local coin shops. As for the 100 ounces, I do know that my main LCS pretty much avoids them since they can be slow to move. But look, in a nutshell, just like everything else with silver, bars are going to be for the long game, all right, long hold, in order for you to make any money on them, unless they're the popular or collectible types. But the last disadvantage, they're highly counterfeited, especially the 1 ounces. And all the major brands are covered by the Chinese. I'll give you an example. Total fake. And the giveaway is the case and the shine and the text and God knows whatever else you want to find wrong with it. Absolute fake. And the worst part is these are all over the internet. They are terrible. They're terrible. All over the internet. eBay has got a ton of them right now. You can tell. You can tell by looking at them. It's really concerning, but they're pretty easy to spot once you train yourself on what to look for. Problem is, folks aren't taking the time to educate themselves, and they're keeping these jackasses in business. Next up, we'll go over silver rounds, and we can define those as silver minted by private mints with no denomination. Now, as far as categorizing these, it's pretty simple since they mirror silver bars. You've got your generics, just basic generic silver. Great design on that. I do like that one. And then you've got your collectible groups, like this Germania round made by the Sunshine Mint. These are pricey, unfortunately. They're not cheap. They are not cheap, so you've got the collectible ones as well. And, of course, you've also got vintage. Just like the silver bars, you got vintage, like these Englehart Prospector rounds. Okay, beautiful. And highly collectible. People love these. People love them. So you could probably throw Germania and silver shield rounds in the collectible category as well, since they carry a much higher premium than standard generics. But what are the advantages of silver rounds? Well, there's one big one, and that's this. They're the cheapest way to add weight. And since they'll typically have lower premiums, you can add it up really quickly on the cheap. But what's the disadvantage? Well, it's the same problem that plagues generic silver bars, and that's liquidity. Just be careful as you start picking up the more collectible generics. If you had to sell in an emergency today, you'd likely get killed on the premium that you paid if it was recent purchases. So silver rounds are fantastic for adding weight, but not so great on liquidity. All right, last but not least, silver bullion coins. Now, these are struck by government mints and will likely have a small denomination on them. An exception would be the Libertad, which is worth the current price of silver in Mexico if you decide to turn them in. Now, if you're an experienced stacker, you already know that the denomination is pretty much a token value. No one in their right mind is ever going to actually use, say, a Silver Eagle, for example, for $1 at a convenience store. Hell, they probably wouldn't accept it anyway because they don't know what it is. But by law, you could use that Eagle for a purchase, even though the actual melt value makes it $20 plus over $1 that you'd have it worth. And then you throw in the premium that you paid, and hell, the Eagle's worth 28 times more than the $1 you just spent it for. So what are the advantages of bullion coins? Well, number one, they have the highest liquidity, as long as they're in pristine condition. Most recognized across the globe. Most of them are. You got Britannia, Eagles, Libertads, Maples, with the Eagles and the Maples being the most recognized. Number two, you get the highest resale values. I mean, there's a great chance you're not going to get what you paid for an Eagle. And if you're trying to sell to an LCS, maybe in a private sale, but probably not to an LCS. But you're going to get more premium back on them than you would over, say, a generic round or bar. And number three, silver content and weight is backed and guaranteed by the issuing government. If it says an ounce, it's got an ounce. Period. Troy ounce. Now, what are the disadvantages of bullion coins? Well, the first one is the premiums. They can get a little on the high side. And as we saw for the last 2.5 years on Silver Eagles, they went insane until they dropped down this year. Now, Libertads are pretty much in the same boat. But the second disadvantage is the condition. These have a propensity to milk spot. Some of them. The Britannia is the worst. The Maple is, since 2018, spot on. Spot on. Eagles have a tendency to spot. Even the Libertads have a tendency to spot. All right? that can easily, very easily, very, very easily drop the price on them when you try to sell. Now, we could make a whole video on this argument. We really could. Considering there's one half that thinks spots don't diminish the value. Ounce of silver is an ounce of silver. And the other side saying it absolutely does diminish the value. Look, I'm kind of on the other side of the fence on that. I've seen dealers sell spotted coins for far less than they could have. And, of course, giving sellers far less than they wanted just because of those spots. So we're getting ready to close this video out, but really quickly, I wanted to give you the percentages of my stack, just to give you an idea how I go about it. Now, I can tell you in advance that I'm not strictly a weight stacker, so if you are, then you're going to disapprove of my percentages for sure. But here they are. I'm roughly 80% government-issued silver, 20% generics, which includes bars and rounds, and 10% collectible silver, which are going to have the highest premiums. Now, is 10% a little bit too high for the collectible stuff? Yeah, from a strictly stacking standpoint, absolutely it is. No weight stacker is going to be caught dead with that much collectible silver in their collection. But here's the thing. I like to reward myself with a nice piece here and there, and it kind of keeps my stacking interesting, since I get bored pretty easily with Eagles, Maples, formerly Britannias, etc. I keep things mixed up for a reason. Now, should I increase my generic percentage? Probably. But in the end, our best hope for all of these categories that we stack is that silver goes at least above what we paid for it over time. And if you're a newer stacker, say over the last 10 years or so, as I am, well, we're going to need a lot of that time, believe me. But there's hope. There is hope. Just look at what silver prices have done since, say, 2003. It averaged $4.52 an ounce back then. So we've gone up exponentially higher in that regard. We definitely have. But since it's silver, it also has its bummer side. Now, if we look back to 2013, just 10 years ago, silver started with a huge bang in January when it hit $30 plus an ounce. But by the end of that year, it closed out at $19.50 an ounce. And to be honest, guys, we're not much higher than that today, sitting at $21.50 an ounce, $2 over 10 years. That's just not a lot of traction or movement over the last 10 years. So you've got to take silver with a grain of salt. It's not for everyone. And it's definitely not meant to be the biggest part of your investment portfolio.
$1 million.
All right. So there you have it. We've broken down bars, rounds, and coins and talked about the advantages and disadvantages of each one. But hey, be sure to leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts on what you'd add to these categories. And let me know what I missed. I didn't add constitutional 90% silver. It's just a different category on its own, really. But yeah, let me know what I missed. I do go through all the comments and I try to respond to each one. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Silver and Gold Stack Attack. If you made it this far, well, kudos to you. I'll definitely catch up with you in the next episode, but in the meantime, you know what's up.
What do you want to do with your life?
Damn right, get stacked. Stay safe and be well, everyone. I am out. Oh, here. Peace, folks.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.